Have you ever looked at your life and seen one thing, only to find out every single piece of it was an illusion? The marriage you thought was secure, the children you believed were your own, even the trust you had in your own father. My name is David, and my story isn't for the faint of heart. It's about how a single secret can fracture a family into a million pieces, and how the pursuit of revenge can blind us to the devastation we cause. This was my house. From the outside, it was the American dream. Inside was a different story altogether. A story of neglect, of hidden affairs, and a revenge plot so dark it would make your blood run cold. I was 38 years old, a partner at a finance firm here in Chicago. My wife, Chloe, she was 36. A brilliant architect who put her career on hold to be the perfect mother to our two kids and to care for my father. Robert, my father, was 67. A former Marine, a powerful man, but left isolated and vulnerable after an accident took his sight. He moved in with us 3 years ago. And then there was Elizabeth, Chloe's mother, my mother-in-law. Beautiful, charismatic, 58 years young. She was the secret keeper. And, as it turned out, she was my secret too. The cracks in our marriage started small. Chloe was consumed with my father's care, and I felt invisible. I buried myself in work. Then, Elizabeth and we found solace in each other. It started with long talks over coffee. She understood the pressure I was under. It wasn't just an affair, it was an emotional escape hatch. And then, she told me she was pregnant. I was terrified, elated, guilty. I promised her we would figure it out. I told her I'd finally talk to Chloe. But I was a coward. I kept living the lie, believing I was in control. What I didn't know was that Chloe already knew. She'd noticed the distance, the late nights, the scent of a perfume that wasn't hers. Women always know. And when she casually asked her mother about a new bracelet she was wearing, a bracelet I had bought, she saw the flicker of panic in Elizabeth's eyes. The connection was made. The target was set. I was planning my future with one woman, completely oblivious that my wife was already plotting to burn our present world to the ground. And her weapon of choice? The one person in that house who was truly blind to what was happening. The stage was set for a collision you couldn't possibly imagine. And it all started with a simple act of care that twisted into something unimaginable. But that's a story for next time. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever discovered a truth that changed everything? Share your story in the comments below, without judgment, without shame. This is just the beginning. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss what happened next. If this story resonates with you, please share it. You never know who might need to hear they aren't alone. I believe my secret was safe, that the life I had built was merely cracking at the edges. I didn't know it was already crumbling from the inside out, eroded by the one person I thought was holding it all together. While I was lost in my guilt and my fantasies of a new life with Elizabeth, my wife, Chloe, was architecting her response. And she wasn't building something new. She was designing a ruin. The confirmation that I was with her mother, it didn't just break her heart. It shattered her entire moral compass. The pain turned into something cold, hard, and sharp. A weapon. Her care for my father, Robert, changed. It was no longer about compassion. It was a strategy. She began to whisper to him, "David is never here for us. I am all you have, Dad. You're still such a strong man." She isolated him, feeding his loneliness and his vulnerability. He was blind, dependent, and drowning in isolation. She became his only lifeline, and she knew it. It started with an innocent massage for his sore shoulders. Then, it was a hug that lasted too long. She told me later, in therapy, that she saw the conflict on his face. The shock, then the guilt, and then a weak, desperate surrender. He was a man who had lost his wife, his sight, and his place in the world. And my wife offered him a terrible, twisted form of comfort. She made a conscious choice. She would use my father's body to break my spirit. She initiated everything. He was a willing prisoner, a pawn in her war against me. The ultimate betrayal wasn't just happening under my roof. It was happening in the one place that was supposed to be sacred, our bed. And the cruelest joke of all, the perfect cover story was right in front of my eyes. My own children. Everyone always said how much the kids looked like me. The Armstrong genes are strong, they'd say at family barbecues. I'd beam with pride. I never stopped to think that the genes they shared were also his. My father's. The truth was hiding in plain sight, and my ego was the perfect blindfold. I was living in a house of mirrors, surrounded by reflections of a truth I was too blind to see. I was about to walk right into it. I came home early that day, ready to finally have the talk that would end my marriage. Little did I know, Chloe had already ended it. In the most devastating way possible. Was Robert a victim or a participant? Let me know your thoughts below. The moment everything shattered is next. Subscribe so you don't miss what happened next. If you're grappling with a painful truth, know that sharing it is the first step. You are not alone. The air in my house had changed and I just didn't know how to read the signs. I was coming home with a secret, ready to confess to one sin. Completely unaware, I was about to stumble upon a crime scene of the heart. I had just left Elizabeth. We'd had a difficult, emotional conversation about the pregnancy. I promised her it was over. I would tell Chloe the truth about us, and we would finally face the music. I thought I was walking in to end my marriage. I had no idea I was walking in on its execution. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that feels heavy, charged. I called out for Chloe. No answer. I figured she was out, or maybe napping in our room. I remember my hand on the bedroom door handle. It felt cold. And then I saw them. My brain, it short-circuited. It refused to process what my eyes were seeing. My wife. My blind father. In my bed. It was a grotesque painting, a nightmare made real. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just froze. The world shrank to that room, that smell, that sound. The foundation of everything I was, everything I believed in, just vaporized. Chaos erupted. There was shouting, my shouting. Robert fumbling, a look of pure shame on his face. But Chloe was calm. She looked at me not with guilt, but with cold, victorious fury. The mask was off. This was the real her. I was screaming, "How could you?" With him. And she stood there, wrapping herself in a robe, and she said the words that would haunt me forever. She said, "You took my mother, David. I took your father. How does it feel?" I thought that was the kill shot. I was wrong. She saw me breaking, and she leaned in for the final blow. She said, "And look at them all you want. The kids? They were never yours. They've always been his. You've been raising your own siblings." The floor fell out from under me. I actually looked at the family photo on the dresser, my son's smile, my daughter's eyes, and I saw it. I saw him. Robert. Not me. The truth I'd been blind to for years finally came into focus, and it was monstrous. I didn't say another word. I turned. I walked out of that room, out of that house, and I vomited on the front lawn. My entire life was a lie. My marriage, my children, my father, it was all gone. I was nothing. A ghost in my own story. I sat in my car for hours, shaking. I had nowhere to go. The woman I loved was carrying my child, and the children I adored weren't mine. The house of cards had collapsed, and I was buried in the rubble. But the hardest part? The confessions were just beginning. What would your first move have been after a shock like that? Could there ever be a way back from a betrayal this deep? Share your perspective in the comments. The fallout is immense. Subscribe to see how this story ends. I was a ghost that I had lost my wife, my children, my father, and my identity, all in one afternoon. The world kept spinning, but I was stuck in that moment, in the doorway of that bedroom. I had two choices: lie down in the ashes of my life, or try to find a way to breathe through them. The weeks that followed were a blur of painful conversations and harsh realities. The first person I had to face was Elizabeth. Telling her was brutal. Her face crumpled not just from the news of Chloe's affair, but from the horror of what her daughter had done, the revenge taken in her name. And then I told her about the children. She wept for them, for me, for the unimaginable mess we had all created. Confronting Robert was different. I found him alone in the house, a broken man in a dark room. He didn't make excuses. He just cried. He said the words I needed to hear. I was weak. I was lonely. I knew it was a sin, and I did it anyway. "I am so sorry, David." His confirmation of the paternity was the final, quiet seal on the truth. There was no fight left in either of us. Just grief. The kids were the priority. We had to tell them a version of the truth, that we all loved them very much, but that the adults had made some big mistakes and couldn't live together anymore. Their confusion, that was the hardest part. The guilt Chloe and I shared for that became our only common ground. Therapy wasn't about saving our marriage. It was about saving ourselves. I had to sit in that room and own my part. My neglect. My affair. I was a victim of a horrific betrayal, but I was also a perpetrator. Chloe had to confront the nuclear devastation of her revenge. We had to learn how to be civil, for the sake of the children we were raising together, even if they weren't biologically mine. And Elizabeth, she decided to keep the baby. Our baby. We chose to build something new, something honest from the very beginning, aware of our complicated past and the painful history we carried. There's no happy ending here. There's no neat bow. There's just a path forward. Some days are okay. I have a relationship with my children because they are my children in every way that matters. Chloe and I manage a fragile piece. Robert moved into a specialized care facility. He calls me sometimes to apologize. I listen. I'm learning that healing isn't about going back to who you were. That person is gone. It's about integrating the pain, the betrayal, the loss into who you are now. It's about building a new man on the foundation of the broken one. This isn't just my story of revenge and secrets. It's a story about how easy it is to become blind to the people we love and how devastating the price can be when we finally see the truth. If you take anything from my pain, let it be this: talk to your partner. Really talk. And if you can't, have the courage to end it cleanly before the silence poisons you and leads you to a place you never thought you'd go. Healing is a choice you make every day. If you're on your own path, share one small victory you've had this week in the comments. Was there a moment in this story that changed your perspective on betrayal? Let me know. This concludes my story. Thank you for listening. If it helped you, please share it to help someone else feel less alone. For resources on healing from infidelity and trauma, links are in the description below.